Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome back to my shop for another live. Last week was a bit of a failure on many parts. I'm trying to make a picture frame and I thought I might be able to make it all in 1 week and failed fairly miserably. So today we're going to hopefully get it done. Who knows what's going to happen? It's live, it's always kind of interesting. So I have my plane sharpened up and I got this all dialed in and tuned up and ready to go. So the plan is to make a picture frame for my Midwest Tool Collectors Association. I have to get that right. Make this a little frame for this to hold into it. Now, if I was smart, I would make the frame out of something a little easier, like a pine or a poplar or even a white oak. But no, I'm dumb. I'm making it out of hickory, and that makes everything much, much harder, not to mention heavier. This is going to be a very, very heavy picture frame. And so we're going to be doing a miter joint on all of them and then doing a spline inset. And it's a fairly simple, an easy frame. You could do a gusset on the back to hold them together, but I kind of like the look of a spline. You get to see it inside. So today let's actually dive in and look at this. Now the last time we cut all of these to a rough angle, and then we can kind of look at how exactly do you go about fine-tuning that angle. It's roughly 45 degrees, but I want it to be dead on exact, because if one of those angles are slightly off, then the last piece that goes in never fits. They all need to be really, really accurate. And so for that, my initial idea is to use a shooting plane. So let me move the camera in a little closer, and hopefully my mouth is actually matching up with this. I think I finally figured out what was wrong with it. If not, please let me know. If it is, then hey, hooray! So let me get the camera in here and zoom in on you. If it is working this time, then I'll bring in the second camera next time and make sure that that'll all working. Okay, there we go. So this is a standard shooting board and it's set up for 90 degrees, which is really nice, but what happens when you want to cut 45 degrees? And this is, people will make specific shooting boards, or they'll make a shooting board with a bunch of extras that can go in there, but really you have a speed square, you've got what you need. And so on this one, I can just set up the speed square, and then I can bring in my piece, and I can set it in here, and I can shoot it. And I'm taking a fairly fine shaving right now. Really fine shaving. As long as I keep it tight up against the fence, and my hand here is holding this whole thing together, then I'll be getting these tiny little shavings. And I can bring this whole thing into exactly, perfectly 45 degrees. Now, this is really nice because you get this absolute glass smooth surface here. You can see the saw marks. This is the glass smooth surface. And this is great, but the problem is you're taking off 1/1000th of an inch or less. I mean, it's really happy because you have these ingrained shavings that are just incredibly delicate and beautiful. But it's a very, very slow process. If you need to shave off just a little bit, this is the way to go. But I want to do it a little bit faster because, well, I want to get this video out. Now, if I were doing it and I were doing one picture frame, I'd probably just shoot it on this and get everything dialed in. But I've got this miter trimmer, which I recently did a video on, and this thing is just a ton of fun, especially once you actually get it dialed in. Now, for something hard like hickory, this is, well, it can be a bit more of a pain because it takes a lot of force to get through here. Now, I've run a larger piece of hickory through here, but if anything is off by a little bit, then things start to move. But the nice thing about this is I can set it in here, and as long as I'm taking like a 30-second or more, I'm okay. If I take less than that, then it starts to move around. So I just have to line this up, set it on here, and then I can slice right on 45. Back it up. If I take too much, then it also causes a problem. So I'm just going to clean this up. That was a bit heavy. But afterwards, you can see perfectly smooth glass clean surface. And 45 degrees. I put it on here, match it up, and it's really nice and smooth. So that is what I'm looking for. This makes things a lot faster, a lot easier. And if you do have it set up, you can do one this way and one this way, or you can just work on this one side and rotate your piece that way. I probably should clean this up. I want to do a restoration in here because I'm probably going to be leaving a little bit of rust stain on this. Not a huge issue because I'll be cleaning up the hickory afterwards. So first thing I want to do is I want to trim up both ends of this piece. And I want to trim them up so when I put this card in here, that the inside corner to inside corner is slightly less, so that the card is ever so slightly hidden into that seam. And right now, the card is shorter than that distance. So if I have it lined up in this corner, I've got about a 1/16 of an inch showing over here. So I need to shave off a little bit more than a 1/16 of an inch for this. Now I cleaned off that side nicely, so let's flip it around and clean off this side. So I got to do this on all of the corners. But this is honestly a ton of fun. Here, let me move the camera around so you can see these shavings coming out as we go. Oh no, I just unplugged it. Did my camera just go dead?
Yes.
I'm trying
and
to
for his
not
next
use batteries.
trick.
Yes. Let me know if it comes back on.
All right. And I was supposed to tell you, since we have a few moments, that you're supposed to use, you just need a hole in the peg to lock in the speed square.
Oh, that would be a smart idea, actually.
So.
Did the camera come back on?
Yeah.
Cool. Here, let me show you what these shavings look like when they come out of here. This is just, I find this to be incredibly fun. Line it up, and a little more than that. If I take too little, it causes a problem. If I take too little on something softer, it's not a problem. But on something hard like this, it can be. Okay, here we go. Ready? And I've got this shaving that is like almost a 1/16 inch in grain. I just love how this thing works. Here, let me back this up. I am looking forward to going back to 2 cameras. Are they saying anything in my mouth being even with it?
No, I haven't seen anything.
So now we have this. Let's see how this lines up over here. And should be pretty close. Yep, that's what I'm looking for. Now the picture is ever so slightly longer than that. That way the picture will be hiding behind the frame. Now if I were having a mat in there, then I'd probably want it the size of the mat. But because I'm not putting a mat, I just want the picture to be shown. That's what I want. So right now I have...
What you really, really want. Sorry.
Oh, that was my wife there. So now these two are the same length. I trimmed this one up earlier. This is the shorter side and this is the longer side. These are the length I want them to be. The only important thing about the picture is that the two sides opposite of each other are identically the same length. So what I can do is I can put these together and I can line them up. And then I look over here and I see they're a very different length. So what I want to do is mark that. Grab my marking knife. Here, let me pull my screen out so I can see, making sure we're still in frame. And move that over. I'm not going to be using that right now. So now I want to bring these into the exact same length. So I'm going to line up one corner. And then I'm going to mark off the other corner. And then I'm going to keep trimming it until I hit that line. And you can see I have a very large chunk here to take off. What about 3/16 of an inch or so that I have to take off. And that's a lot of material. But with the miter trimmer, it makes it go a lot faster. Now I have to make sure, I marked it on the wrong side. I'm going to use that side, so let me finish this. You to you, you to you. So that marked. Then we can bring it over here, set this down, and trim it up. Oh, happiness. I just love this machine. This thing is just a ton of fun. And here, let me make sure I've moved. I have moved a little bit. One of the things I'm noticing with this is it gets a little bit finicky. And if I don't keep an eye on it, it wiggles around just a hair. So I just have to keep an eye on it and make sure that everything is copacetic. So now we can just start shaving it until we get close to that line. Oops, that's a bit too much. Now I'm getting overly excited. Something about almost shearing fingers off that just makes me happy. Oh, now my whole fast came off. What? About shearing fingers off?
Dangerous to watch.
Try not to take off that much.
Remember, go slow. The goal is to finish this time.
What do you mean? Are there any pictures? Any questions while I'm doing this? Or just chats behind my back?
No, we're just kind of catching up and making sure that we're still finishing the same project. A couple people just kind of joined us, so they're just catching up.
Oh no! Now this is sliding. So I just gotta. Where'd my pliers go? I really probably should restore this before having too much fun with it, but where's the fun in that? I want to play with this thing.
So did you just get the last swap meet?
What's that?
Or did you just get?
Yes, I just got this at the Midwest Tool Collectors meet here in Loves Park. Now we're getting closer. Closer. That pop at the end, every time you hear that, is actually the fence moving back on me a little bit. So once I get right up close to the end, I'm going to check that fence again. Make sure that everything is right on for that last cut. Because I want this angle to be dead on. There's actually a mark on the bed, I might show you that here in a minute, of where it needs to be. Okay, this is the cut that matters. If I do it right, this one cut will bring it all down. Here we go, ready? Ta-da! Now I can bring these two in here and see how well do they line up. Perfect there, and not so perfect there. Did I make it a little shorter than it needs to be? I made it a little shorter than it needs to be. Oh well, that means I gotta shave a little off this one. Or maybe I should take it over to the shooting board and clean it up. That's probably the smart thing to do.
That's what Ray Roberts was like. A decent shooting board would be just fine and a lot less hassle.
Well, the problem is I just got this toy and...
Oh my gosh, they're like mind readers. Because then, but Ray, it's a new tool. Oh my
Yes.
soul, they know you. Ah!
Nope, need a little more. Yep, I gotta play with my new toys. You know, I've got to warm them up in the shop. And honestly, like this is a whole new toy, a whole new experience for me. And the only way I'm going to learn it is to play with it. I have to learn what its kinks are, what its quirks are, what things does it do that
and we're going to do
it
live,
to.
of course.
Yeah, now that's what I'm looking for. That's dead on. Okay. Nice and clean on both sides. So now I know these two pieces are exactly the same size. Now I need to do the same thing with this one. So this is what I want, and I want it to match this. So let's line those up.
So they're actually more distracted by the fact you're not wearing your clogs.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. We just had our kids' music concert, and so we just got back from that. So I came running downstairs to get this all set up and make sure everything's ready to go for it. And yeah, got to put on my clogs. You get to see me in my nice shoes. Don't tell my wife I'm wearing my nice jeans.
He's worse than a girl when it comes to running tennis shoes.
Yeah, I've got, what, 30-some pairs of shoes? No, 13 pairs of shoes.
Sad. So, a serious question, though, was what kind of hammer you're using?
This is a hammer I made a while ago. I have a video on it, but I use this for setting planes. Anytime I want to get a very accurate amount of force on something, this just allows me to do it. The wedge on this side is for pulling out the wedge on a plane, but this just provides a little bit of force, especially since it fits into the palm of my hand. I can just wrap it and tap on things. So anytime I want to move something, but I want to move it a measured amount, that's what I grab. Or anytime I just want to look like a little fairy. Okay. So there's my mark. Let's shave this one down. And hopefully once I get these shaved, the magic comes when I put them all together and they all fit perfectly on the first try. We'll see if that happens.
I would say you can only go up from last week, but I don't want to jinx you yet.
Okay, we're getting up close to it, so let me rearrange this. Bring it right under that line. Set this in. There we go. Now let's see if we can do this in one shaving. Here we go. Oh, that was happy. It felt good. Let's see if it all lines up. Oh, yes. And you see that makes up for all of last week. That is like dead on accurate. Now, here comes the main event. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. Does this picture frame actually fit? So let me set the camera up here. Move this board out of the way. And this is the pain right here of all miter joints. You can set up jigs and make everything perfect within an inch of its life, but until you actually put them out here and you size them all up and you see how well do they actually fit, and reality comes together and reality smacks you in the face and says, you're an idiot. Why are you even doing this woodworking thing? Oop. And I am getting really happy. Oh, it's off a hair. But honestly, within tolerances to me. I'm probably off like a, let's see, I've got like a 30 seconds of an inch gap on this one. And, let me just hit it with a shading board and see if that fixes it. So my angle is ever so slightly acute. But the nice thing about the shooting board is that I can take off such a tiny little amount.
It's a cute little angle. Come on.
It is a cute little angle.
Come on.
Where did that piece
Let
go?
that one go.
Need a piece on here just to create this, correct this angle ever so slightly. Okay, yep, there we go. So now we can just come in here. I can do that to each piece. Just take a little bit off the back. And see how close. Oh no!
Did you
My
get
cap just came
overzealous?
loose. No, I've actually never had that happen before. My lever cap just came loose. Why did it come loose? Why is it shaking? This is the first problem I've had with this plane. I've been expecting problems with it because it is the cheapo. Well, at least the... Well, that's why that bolt's come loose. So that's the first actual problem I've had with this plane. And I've now had it for about a year and a half. So I'm fairly happy with it. For the price, I'll take it. Well, actually, it was given to me, so the price is, on my end, pretty good. Now I'm taking too heavy a cut.
So Connor wants to know why you're not using the miter trimmer for this adjustment. Is it because it's so small?
Yes, because I'm taking off just a tiny amount. With the miter trimmer, if I'm taking off less than like a 30-second, actually with hickory, if I'm taking off less than like a 16th, it causes issue. Whereas with the shooting board, I can take off just a tiny hair and I can sneak up on it. Still taking too deep a cut. And I can change my angle ever so slightly as well. Turn this one. One thing I hate about low angle jacks is the depth adjustment knob. And so this allows me to just take off this hair, because what the problem I have right now is this angle is too acute, so it's cutting like this. Excuse me, no. It's too obtuse. Yeah, it's too obtuse, it's too big. So what I want to do is I want to take material off of here on the obtuse angle, not the acute angle. And so this allows me to adjust the angle very, very closely. And shave it down just a hair. And if I was working with something softer, probably would have been able to nail the angle perfectly on the miter trimmer. But because this is so hard, when it gets to the end of the cut, it binds up and it tends to move the fence a little bit. And so any amount of accuracy goes out the window. There we go. Now let's try it again. So you have some tools that are for accuracy, some tools that are for getting the work done. It's kind of like the power tool versus the hand tool. And you have your scrub plane that mills off material, and then you have other planes that get you closer and closer. And let's see just how close we are. So this should slide in and goes. I think I heard the sound. Did you hear the sound? That is really, really darn close. Yeah, I'll take that. Now, if I wanted to, I could just say, that's good, I'm done, and glue it up, put a strap around it, and let it sit. But what I want to do is actually put splines in the end. What time is it? 23? Yeah, I think I might have time for that. Famous last words. So I want to get this up and done. Now, normally what I would do is I would glue it, I'd let it sit overnight, and then I'd come back in and I'd put the splines in. But since I don't have that, and my most previous tests say that 2P10 gel is incredibly strong, I think for this application I can do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on this gel. It's coming out more watery than I expect. Why is that? There we go. So now I can put that in there. I can lock this down, squeeze out some of that gel, and then when I lock it in place, I'm going to hit it with some activator. There's that side. Hit this side with the activator. And then while that one's setting, I'm going to hit this one. And this, I wouldn't use 2P10 for a permanent fixture. Number one, I don't know its long-term strength. Number two, I don't know its shock absorbency or its shock effectiveness. How effective it is with shock, I don't know. And there's a few things that I just don't know about it. But according to the tests I've done, didn't quite make it. It is incredibly strong. And so for a temporary hold like this, I'm going to trust it. The problem with the gel is it takes longer to set. And the activator can't get all the way down into the joint. There's that one. Now let's see how these fit. Close that up. There we go. That's happy. Now let's put in some of this gel. And if there's any questions, right now would be a good time for it.
They're actually more wondering if you're going to glue your hands together and if I have super glue dissolver on hand. So I don't know if they know you and are anticipating or are secretly very dark and hoping.
Or a little of both in my audience. Yeah, actually, super glue is one of the earliest glues I ever worked with doing model airplane or remote control airplane construction back before ARFs. That's one of the nice things about gel, though, is you have a little bit of working time with it. Just if you work it too fast.
So there's a question, does one not usually apply the activator before putting the joint together?
No, because the moment the activator touches it, it hardens.
Ah, there you go.
So if you put the activator on first and then the glue touches it, the glue will immediately harden. The other thing I was impressed with the wood glue test was the strength of the glue in what's the word I'm looking for? Gap filling. In the past, if there's any gap at all, I wouldn't trust super glue, but now I do. So that should be enough to allow us to get to the miter work. My only fear is because I'm rushing this, I'm going to snap one of these when sawing it. We'll find out. So let me move this around. Now that we got this up and running. And get the miter trimmer out of here. One of the things I love about these live streams is that it becomes far easier to show the difficulties and problems. With a regular video, it is actually difficult to show problems because when you're mad and angry, you don't want the camera running. So I'm kind of have to control myself a bit when things don't go quite right.
Because you're never mad or angry.
I am never, ever, ever mad
Ever.
or angry.
Ever.
I'm going to be just off. Got a bit of grease on these, and I didn't put in, when I installed these, I didn't put in the resting pins, thinking, oh, I'll do that sometime. But
a very long list to do.
yeah, there's always a list like that. So I'll just have to put some rags in here so I can set this on those screws. Otherwise, I'll get grease on the frame. So, now comes the problem. Is that super glue fast enough to do this? So I've got my marking gauge on here. And what I want to do is I want to mark off where the spline will go. So number one, I'm going to mark the depth of the spline, which I'm not going to use that one for.
So for your woodwork and illiterate wife, what is a spline?
A spline is basically, we're going to take a piece of wood, a piece of white oak particularly, and we're going to slide it down into the wood. And so it's going to go at 45 degrees to both pieces. So what it will do is secure this joint, because right now you have basically in-grain to in-grain connection, which is a very weak connection. A lot of things will easily break that. Turn that over a little bit. So that in-grain to in-grain is very weak, where if you put a spline through it, now you have long grain to long grain connecting this all together. So I need to put several marks on here. Number one, I need marks of how deep the spline will go, which I'm going to go about here. I'm not going to put a very big spline on. I'm going to put a fairly light spline. Number one, I want to get through this tonight. I want to at least get one spline on here and show you how it's done. If I mess up and can't get all four done, then oh well, as long as I can get one done. But this will be a depth of cut. So we're just putting this tiny little spline on this one. Some people like to put these big splines so that this board will sink all the way down into the wood and be like that. I just like something little. Then I've got this mortising gauge. Now a mortising gauge here has 2 pins. And I'm going to set those 2 pins, which I did before, to the width of my chisel that I want to use, which also happens to be the thickness of the spline material I've set aside. Now, if I really wanted to be smart, what I would do is I would grab spline material that is the same thickness as my saw kerf. So I can just simply cut in a saw kerf, slide the spline in. And what I would generally do is do 1, 2 cuts, slide those splines in, clean them off, and be good to go. But in this case, I really wanted to use this white oak because it's white oak. I mean, how can you not use white oak? So now I have my depth mark in there. I'm going to put this on that depth mark. Here, let me zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see this a little clearer.
So is there a difference between a spline and a key? I've got a question.
A spline, well, a spline is specifically designed for holding together 2 butt joints. Whereas like a dovetail key would be something you'd put on the front to go across that joint. So yeah, they're kind of the same thing, but not. A spline is almost always on the corner, whereas a key is often in the middle of a board, particularly covering a crack. 1, 2, 3. Hopefully you can see those lines, but probably not.
No.
Has anyone mentioned anything about my mouth and the sounds of saws and things being in timing?
They said the sound's pretty good, but we haven't seen much of your face.
Okay, well, that's a good thing, I guess. So now that I have these lines, I'm going to cut. Actually, I'm going to use my tenon saw because I'm cutting with the grain. I want one that's more of a rip. This is a bit bigger and bulkier, so I don't often use it on small things like this. Actually, no, better yet. Not that it really doesn't make any difference what saw I use, but I've got this beautiful dovetail saw that I love. And for a small cut like this, this will be perfect. So I'm going to cut down on the inside of the line. I'm just going to eyeball that line. And I'm going to slowly lower the heel of the saw down until I get to the depth mark on my side. Right there. And then I'm going to lower the toe down until I get to the depth mark on the other side. And then flatten the whole thing out.
But yes, they say it's synced for the few moments they saw you.
Cool.
They saw.
You'll probably be able to notice it much easier with a saw. But I don't know. Down to the depth on my side. Down to depth on your side. Flat across. Now comes the moment of truth. If those glue joints have set up well, then everything should go well when I come and chisel this across, because basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cutting across the grain. Now the tendency is to cut across at 45 degrees, but what I want to do is I want to cut in at 90 degrees to the wood itself. I'm going to do the same thing. Oops, sorry. Did I move it off the screen? I don't think so.
No.
And with that at 90 degrees, then I can come in and chip out a bit. And chip out a bit. And then do it again. And what I'm basically doing is removing as much of the waste as I can ahead of time, because I want to cut small pieces off rather than big pieces. Because big pieces are going to cause more problems with putting too much stress on these joints. So now you can see I'm coming in at 45 degrees to the sides, working in closer and closer to the depth stop line. Before I go too much farther, my assumption was that this will fit. Ooh, I made it a bit fat. Oh well. I tested earlier putting those marks by my chisel, and I put the chisel to this. I wonder if there's variances in the thickness of this. No, it's pretty even. Yeah, I made a bit of a gap. So normally I would want to test it on some other board, but I didn't on this one, so oops, oh well. Gaps are fine. Gaps are marks of learning. Hopefully, I'll learn from it. We'll find out. So now I've gotten close to my depth line. You can see there, I'm going to put my knife right at that depth line. And I'm going to eyeball across. And if anything, I'm going to aim down into the joint just a hair. Clean this up a hair. Man, hickory is hard. Whose idea was it to use hickory on this? And now you can put the spline in there, and that is incredibly loose. So let me tighten it up on the next one. And hopefully I have glued the paper to this. Show you how to actually glue it, because what I'll end up doing then is gluing it in place and then cleaning it up. But I don't have time for the glue to set completely in this video. So let me cut this other one. Make these just a hair smaller.
You're liking those hairs tonight.
Hey, it's all about hairs.
You know that.
I don't know why. I don't love problems. But I like it when problems come up in these because, number one, it's a good learning experience for me because I'm the one in front of the camera. I get kind of embarrassed about my problems. But number two, it allows me to show you reality because in a lot of YouTube videos, you see people making these incredibly awesome things, but you don't see the problems that they go through to get there. And everyone goes through these problems. That is completely normal. Now, before I do that, I'm going to set this in here. See. Yeah, my pins are too close. They're too far apart. So, that's more like it. So now when I cut, I'm just going to cut a little bit farther inside the line than I did last time.
So, question is, did the saw kerf make it too wide?
What's that?
Did the saw kerf make it too wide?
No. When I set up the marking gauge ahead of time, I tested the marking gauge to the chisel, and then I tested the chisel to this. And in each of those, there's a slight variation, and each one got slightly bigger. What I should have done is set up the marking gauge to the wood, and then the chisel should be somewhere in between those. But I didn't do that, and I didn't test it ahead of time, which I should have. Oh well. And I'd much rather make it too tight than too loose because you can always open it up a bit. So what I'm doing now is I'm just staying away from those lines a little bit more. I'm literally just hanging off of them a few thousandths, making sure I don't touch the line. I'm going to take my time a little bit more on this one. See if we can clean it up, make it pretty. So again, I'm going to start here about halfway, come in at 90 degrees to the grain, try and bust off these extra pieces. So now I think I went a little overcautious, and now the gap is actually ever so slightly thinner than my chisel. So let's see how this goes in. Yep, now it's too tight. Not a problem. I would much prefer too tight, but that just means I'm going to have to do a little bit of cleaning work. So I'm going to slide this in here and just pare down. Now we can start coming in this way. So occasionally I'm going to chop some out, and then I'll come in and pare out. Working down to the line. Still staying away from that depth line. I don't want to touch that. Now before I go too much farther, I'm going to pare this out and then test the wood. So I'm pretty sure it's right about there. Let's see how this fits. Hair on the tight side still. Pare it out just a little bit more. Shaving or so. Yeah, see, now that's what I'm looking for. That's happy. That's what every joint should be the first time, every time. Who are we talking about? This is reality and the Wood by Wright show. Nothing ever works perfectly on the Wood by Wright show. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Thursday's video coming out, because in Thursday's video, it's actually shot by a professional videographer, or at least most of the footage is, and then I've edited it. But it'll be about making a box from simple firewood. And that should be a fun one. And the video for it, I mean, if you've ever wanted to see some of the coolest shots, put hand tools under slow motion 4K footage, and it's just like, oh, it's such a turn on. Okay, here we go. Now we're close to the line. So let's take it right up next to the line. And then right into the line. come over to this side. And this one I have to go right into the line. It came too close last time. Come through here. Clean out the inside. Pare it all the way down. Pare it. And now for the moment of truth again. And clean it out a little more. Now we can put this in. It should take a little bit of effort to get down in there. Just like that. See, now that's what I'm looking for. That is absolutely perfect. Except for this piece is too big, so let's cut off a smaller chunk. Move over to here. Oops, did I hit a button? Okay, good. So used to hitting a button to set record, and I don't need to do that now, it's just live. So let's cut out a small scrap to fill that. So then this piece can fit down in there. Now normally I'd fill this with some wood glue, but in order to get it up and running in time, I'm going to use some more CA. What's the time? 43. Okay, we're doing really good still. Here I'm rushing myself because of last week. So let's put a little bit of this in, a little bit of this in, and then let's slide this down. Punch it with a hair of activator. And then what we can do is we can come through and clean it off. So I just want to stay away from the lines. You're probably tired of hearing me say that. Am I aiming at the right thing? Let me zoom in a little bit more from this angle. Make it a little bit easier to see there.
Looks like a Stargate symbol.
Yes. There's a reason I married this woman. And then I'm going to get it this way, but I want to stay a ways away from the line. I don't want to cut into the frame itself. Like that. I'm getting too close to the frame, so I'm just going to stop. Oop, cutting into the frame there. Just trying to get rid of the majority of the material. And then what I can do is come in with a plane, and let me grab this one, and I can plane it down. Smooth it out. Except for now I'm going against the grain on this hickory. Okay. Let me take care of this side and see how that goes. One of the problems with hickory is if you go against the grain, it does not like you. It will immediately tear out. That's okay, we got tools to fix that. See, that side's nice. Should turn it around and show you guys that side. But let me show you what we do for that because the grain is coming in. We're going to use our brand new hunky-dory wood by Wright card scraper. And these actually just came into the shop. They're now available. As well as I have the patented wood by Wright thumb saver. So.
Let me know when you get to a spot for a couple questions.
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so Mason said, what's the difference between pins and spurs on a mortise and marking gauges and not just the difference in number?
Say that again?
The difference between pins and spurs on mortise and marking gauges?
Well, there's a couple different types. These ones have pins. They're round, pointy points in there. A spur is more of a knife blade. Rather than being round, it's literally a knife blade. A lot of the Japanese styles use that. And then it's also about terminology, so I love this. Where you can get these really nice little fluffy little curls.
And then someone
Clean this all
wants
up nice and smooth.
to know, I think, what kind, no, where did you get your saw? I think somebody wanted to know.
Oh, everyone wants to know that one. This thing is from Bearcat Woodworks. And he made this one for me out of myrtle wood. Knotty myrtle wood. Absolutely gorgeous. He makes them, but there is like a 6 to 8 month waiting list. And they're worth every penny. They're just absolutely gorgeous, and they're the type of thing once you feel it's like, oh, happiness. Okay, almost there. Actually, I'm going to go this way. Show you guys what this looks like. I'm probably just going to stop with this one. I'll finish up the rest off camera and make a video, make a picture of it. Yeah, let's just stop there. Stop while I'm ahead. So when sawing that, apparently I put too much force in that super glue, and it has not cured on the inside yet. So I'm going to wrap this up with wood glue and do it correctly. Let me back out, make sure I'm in front. Oops. But yeah, here you can see what a spline looks like right there. And with a bit more cleanup on that, it just ends up being perfect. And the difference in wood, a lot of times people will use a darker or a lighter wood in there to add a bit of contrast to the spline. It doesn't have to be very big, just enough to connect those by. So right now I'm cutting across like that much of the wood. If I wanted to, I could make it bigger and have it stick down into here further. But that's basically a spline. I want to do this. Let me move this up. This video series is kind of a well, it wasn't intended to be a series. This is kind of a test for me. Number one, to see how much could I actually get done in a single 1 hour video. And then do I want to do projects like this in the future? So let me know your ideas on this, because if I were to be making a picture frame like this, I would probably give myself 3 to 4 hours in the shop of work time. And I would spend more time dialing things in and testing and using a few other practices to get things where I want. Whereas doing it live here and just kind of rushing through and trying to get in, you're going to end up with problems and issues. And that's okay. That's part of life. But I want to know your thoughts on that. Is that something that you're okay with? Or would you like me to bite off smaller chunks and like say, today we're going to work on cutting miters, and then the next one we're going to work on finishing the miters, and the next one we're going to work on cutting the splines, the next one we're going to work on installing the splines, and actually split it up into 4 hours of video footage. I could probably do that. Another thing I'm thinking about doing is a joinery test, and actually doing, you can make a window, so it has 4 sides like this, but then there's another board going across here, another board going across here, and it gives you a chance to do 9 different joints, and splitting that up into 9 different videos and doing a video on each joint. So if you went through each joint, each joint for me would probably be like 20-30 minutes worth of work on average. Some joints might be longer, some joints might be shorter. But then that way I can do an entire video on one joint, and then another video on the next joint, another video on the next joint. And I think that might be something that would be more useful for these live videos. So I'm kind of playing with this idea, getting the camera set up, making sure everything's up and working and functional. But I'd love to hear your ideas on that.
Did you see one Blue Lagoon's super chat?
For when I heard it snap when he was tightening the vise.
I don't know if that's a pity super chat.
No, the time it broke was actually when I was doing the saw. I was cutting down an angle, and my force was running across this way. And the vise was connected just above the joint, and it slipped that way and snapped. And I thought, ooh, I think it snapped, but oh well. So that's why, normally I would do it in stages, and I would use wood glue, connect it up, band clamp it all together, get it exactly nice and tight. Then the next day I'd come in and I'd do all the splines and wood glue those all together. The next day I'd come in and smooth out all the joints and let the glue sit. I normally like to let glue sit overnight, but trying to speed it up with this. I'm interested to see, I want to do this in a long-term test and actually see how does it do long-term as well as a shock test. I don't know, that'd be kind of interesting. So yeah, there, picture frame. I will be finishing this up and doing this because I do want to have, I do want to frame this, but I still need to get a piece of glass. But let me give you an idea of how it looks. Knowing my luck, I'm about to glue this sheet into the picture frame. But there, picture frame.
Ooh, it's upside down.
Such is my luck. So yeah, I'd love to hear your ideas on this and where would you like these to go, because I do like doing these. They end up taking usually like 3 to 4 hours worth of work, and that is far more beneficial to this, and I can spend more time working on some of the big projects, the furniture projects that people want to have done. So I'm playing with the format, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Any particular questions?
No, they're giving you their thoughts about.
I will be reading through these
that,
comments,
so
love to hear that. And also feel free, send me an email or a message. That I do listen to those as much as I possibly can.
All right, so let's see. Question: do you have any strong feelings of what band clamp you think is best?
Honestly, my band clamp is a ratchet strap. You know, those things you get at Home Depot or the car store. I use, I don't think I have one here, but just a cheapo ratchet strap that I get 4 of, and I use those for my band clamp. So, yeah, I'm probably the wrong person to ask for that.
And then lots of questions about the card scrapers and where to get them.
Oh, the card scrapers are made by DFM, and so he keeps the blue sheen on it, which I love, and it fits well into the blueness of the shop. And so I contacted him and said, hey, would you make me 25 of these and put the logo on them? So he sells them on Amazon for $15, and in Amazon you get the free shipping if you're with Prime. But if you want them with the logo, you have to buy them on my store, woodbywright.com/shop. But they also come with the patented Wood by Wright refrigerator magnet, also known as thumb saver. So when you're pushing on the back, it keeps it from heating up and wearing off your thumbs. And so they're $17.99 on my store. So if you want to save money, I have a link to his Amazon site on my store. But if you want to send a few bucks my way and you also get the refrigerator magnet, then you can buy them in my shop. So yeah, I got 25 of them, but as of like 2 hours ago, half of them were already sold, and it wouldn't surprise me if they're all gone by tomorrow morning. So if you want one of these, go ahead and get it. I don't know when I'll get them back in stock. I'll try to when they sell out, but it will be a little while. So sorry. What else we got?
No, I was trying to put the link in. It didn't work because I'm still learning a lot.
Yeah, links are often issues.
Yeah, I know. They like the format. They like it when you make mistakes because then they don't have to make the mistakes. They're not as gutsy
I like
as
showing
you.
people that everyone on YouTube is also human, and in every shop I've ever been to, I've been up to Matt Cremona. I've been out to
You're not aliens.
What?
Nothing.
Johnny Brook, Zach Herber-Holtz, up to oh come on, all the names are disappearing from me right now. I've probably been to about a half different other YouTube shops, and if you go into all of them, you'll look at it and be like, oh, you're human. It's just YouTube makes things so easy to not hide the problems, but it makes it hard to show them. And so this live format makes it really nice to actually show that things like this happen. And when you're rushing through things, they're always going to happen. I would love to talk with Roy Underhill more because what he did is phenomenal. Now, he did a lot of testing, so he would do like a 23-minute video, but he would have practiced through it 4 or 5 times, and he had every step set up, so you just do one pass of the plane here and one slice with the saw here and that type of thing. But yeah, I'll be working on it. And this is a whole work in progress for making these things better, so I'd love to hear your input. Anything else?
I don't think
56?
so. They all
Cool.
were putting in their comments, so I think.
Yeah, I think that'll about do it. I'm thinking that the next 9 live videos, I'm going to be doing those joints. I don't know how they'll be going, and I'll probably do a video kind of showing what the joints are and showing what I want to do with it. Because I have that frame. No, it's upstairs in the garage. Stink, I would have brought that down. I should have thought of that. Oh But I have a frame I did before back when I first got started. And I have a friend who makes that frame every year. And it's kind of his judge about how has his wood progressed over his lifetime, so that every year he can compare the frames and say, wow, this joint is tighter and that joint got sloppy, and kind of see how you're going. But yeah, I think that'll be kind of fun. But if you have any other ideas, I'd love to know about it. What's a quick and easy thing that can be done in 1 hour and rush through it and still make a decent project? I'm still learning what that is. But if you have any ideas, let me know. Cool. Anything else?
Barry Dickinson just asked, where are you located?
I am just north of Rockford, Illinois, about 8 miles south of the Wisconsin border. So, yeah, I'm hoping to do a get-together here soon, still playing around with ideas. So if anyone is within the Wisconsin-Illinois state line, keep your ears peeled. But I think that is about it. So, yeah, go out and get your card scrapers while they're still in stock. But, yeah, until next time, have a wonderful day.
See ya.
I'm going to shut it down.
I'm trying.
She's cute.
Can't find my mouse. Come back, little mouse. Where'd you go?
Oh.